It is my great pleasure to introduce Adrienne Mayor, who is an author on ancient science topics and a classical folklorist. She has spent the majority of 2 decades researching major works of scholarship in classics and history and philosophy of science and technology. Her work has been featured on NPR, the BBC, the Discovery and Health television channels, and has been published in the New York Times and National Geographic. I'm losing a mic here, excuse me. Her latest book is titled The Amazons, Lives and Legends of Warrior Women Across the Ancient World. Through her deep research, Mayor combines classical myth and art, nomad traditions and scientific archaeology to reveal details about the lives of these women warriors across the ancient world, from the Mediterranean Sea to the Great Wall of China. Ladies and gentlemen, Adrienne Mayor.
Thank you. It's really a great honor to be part of the National Book Festival. It's especially exciting for me because this is the debut of my book. I don't even have a copy of my own yet. This is a sneak preview, really. The book doesn't hit the bookstores until, I think, at mid-September. So, very exciting. With all the popular movies, I think we can start the slideshow now. Yeah. With all the popular movies, TV, series featuring bold, warlike women, Amazons from Xena and Wonder Woman, animated films like Brave, Mulan, The Hunger Games, Atalanta in the Hercules film, the Shield Maidens in the Vikings, and the strong women in the Game of Thrones. I'm guessing everyone here is very aware already of the idea of warrior women. And it's almost impossible to count the number of books for adults and children featuring Amazons. And I'm just wondering if the slideshow is beginning. Okay. I had compiled a slideshow, but we'll see if it... Oh. I advance each one? You didn't put it on slideshow? Okay. Who were the Amazons? 2,500 years ago, the ancient Greeks described Amazons as the equals of men, independent and fearless women who hunted and rode to battle. I think it's fair to say that the Amazons have always been with us as a reality and as a dream. It's just that sometimes their fiery nature is hidden from view or even suppressed. At other times, they come blazing into popular culture and into history, especially if you've been paying attention to the Kurdistan women who are fighting ISIS. The images you see in the slideshow really bring that home, the timeless quality. Timeless quality of ancient Amazons as they were depicted in classical Greek vase paintings and sculpture. And those images I've juxtaposed with modern archaeological excavations of the battle-scarred skeletons of real-life Amazons, women of Eurasia who were buried with their weapons and horses. Those real horsewomen of the steppes whose graves can tell us so much were alive at the very same time that the Greeks were describing and painting pictures of barbarian warrior women that they knew as the Amazons. And I'm also including just a few maps for orientation. I don't know if you can see them, but they might help you see where we're talking about. And I've added to the mix some thrilling images of modern day Amazons. Who were the Amazons? It's a simple question, but complex answers. As many of you already know, in Greek mythology, Amazons were fierce women of exotic lands, as courageous and skilled in battle as the mightiest Greek heroes. Amazons were located in a vast territory that the Greeks called Scythia, the land around the Black Sea and beyond the Black Sea. Amazons played a major role in the legendary Trojan War and in the chronicles of the city of Athens. In Greek myth, every great champion, from Hercules or Heracles, Theseus, Achilles, they all had to prove their courage by overcoming powerful warrior queens and their armies of ruthless women. Those glorious struggles against foreign man-killers, that's what the Greeks called them, were recounted in oral tales, and they were later written down in epic poems like Homer's Iliad. The ancient Greeks surrounded themselves with images of Amazons, just as we do today, and every Greek boy and girl, every man and woman knew Amazon adventures by heart. But audacious warrior women were not confined to the realm of myth in antiquity. We also hear that famous historical figures such as Cyrus the Great of Persia, Hannibal, Alexander the Great, Mithridates of Pontus, and the Roman general Pompey also tangled with fierce Amazons. The idea of warlike barbarian females, and the Greeks used the word barbarian for anyone who didn't speak Greek. They were the opposites of proper Greek women, and they certainly served many symbolic and psychological functions for the Greeks, but what I was entranced by was the archaeological discoveries that confirm that Amazons were not just fantasy, not merely figments of the Greek imagination, as so many scholars have believed. And that's what I'm going to focus on today, the archaeology of Amazons. I was also struck by the fact that Greek and Roman authors never doubted that Amazons had existed in the Roman past. Many ancient writers up through the Roman period reported that women, live, living women, were actually enjoying the liberated life of Amazons, and they still dwelled in lands around the Black Sea and beyond. Long before modern archaeologists began excavating the graves of warrior women, those ancient writers understood that among the nomadic horse-riding peoples of the steppes of Western Asia, the women lived the same rugged outdoor life as the men. These warlike tribes have no cities, no fixed abodes, wrote one Greek historian. They live free and unconquered, so savage that even the women take part in war. Amazons, remarked others, were as courageous and as fearsome as their Scythian husbands. So from very early times, the ancient Greeks realized that the Amazons of their myths were somehow related to the living women of Scythia. The nomad women were first described in detail in about 470 BC, 5th century BC, by the historian Herodotus. And I was intrigued to learn that about 100 years later, the philosopher Plato stated that both the Amazons of mythic times and the contemporary warrior women of Scythia, described by Herodotus, inspired Plato's idea that Greek women should serve as soldiers alongside men in his ideal republic. Thanks to recent and spectacular archaeological discoveries, we now have overwhelming proof that girls and women fitting the description of Amazons in Greek literature and art really existed. They were members of tribes who ranged over the lands north and east of Greece. They were called Thracians, Sarmatians, Maeotians, Saka, Scythians, and their neighbors. Among these people, women rode horses and were trained to use bows and spears. They knew how to defend themselves, and they even went to war, just like the men. And the lives of these tough, nomadic women were very different, as I said, from the lives of Greek women, who were normally confined indoors to weave and mind children all their lives. And that difference made a deep impression on the Greeks. The Greeks began to encounter these nomadic peoples in the 7th century BC, when many Greek cities were beginning to establish trade colonies around the Black Sea. So the Greeks met and traded with these diverse but culturally related